Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam. I have been approached by my friend who belongs to a Sikh community for marriage. I have some questions regarding interfaith marriage in Islam. Verse Surah number 2, verse number 221 states, and do not marry polytheist women until they believe. And a believing slave woman is better than a polytheist, even though she might please you. And do not marry polytheist men to your woman until they believe. And a believing slave is better than a polytheist, even though he might please you. Those invites you to the fire, they invite you to the fire, and Allah invites you to paradise and to forgiveness by His permission. And He makes His verse clear to the people that perhaps they may remember. This verse doesn't say directly not to marry non-Muslims. It says don't marry polytheists and idol worshippers. In which category does Sikh community comes in? Furthermore, the boy said that in their community they also believe in one God and are monotheist. Is marrying from this community for Muslims allowed? If this is allowed, why the majority of Muslim communities are against it? The sister from Karachi, Pakistan has asked a question that she has a proposal from one of her friends who's a Sikh, and because that Sikh doesn't do idol worship, he believes in one God, so nowhere does the Quran say that do not marry non-Muslim, it only says do not marry idol worshippers, based on the verse of the Quran, Surah Baqarah chapter 2 verse number 221, which I also repeated earlier, and even she has given the translation. Nowhere does the Quran say that it should not marry non-Muslim. So is it permissible, or logically she thinks it's permitted that a Muslim can marry a Sikh? Sister, there is a misunderstanding from your side. The verse you quoted clearly mentions in Surah Baqarah chapter 2 verse number 221, do not marry idolaters. It says mushrik, until they believe. Whether it's an idolater or whether it's any person, any human being, do not marry them until they believe. That means it says you cannot marry unbelievers. It says indirectly you cannot marry non-Muslims. And the verse continues. A believing man, that is a Muslim man, even if he is a slave man, is better than a idolater, a mushrik, even if he allows you. That means a believing man, even if he is a slave man, is better than a non-believing man, is better than a non-Muslim. So whether the word mushrik is used, but it says the mushrik should become a mu'min. That means you cannot marry any non-Muslim. It clearly states that a Muslim man, even if he is a slave man, is better than an idolater or a non-Muslim. So for you to say nowhere does the Quran say that you cannot marry non-Muslim is a misunderstanding. The Quran clearly states that you should marry only a believing man. So all non-believing men you cannot marry. The Sikh, they may believe in monotheism, part of it. But monotheism is not sufficient. We should believe in Tawheed. Only believing in one God is not sufficient. In Islam, we have to believe in Tawheed. And Tawheed, monotheism is one small aspect of Tawheed. And if you hear my lecture on concept of God in major world religion, I have spoken in detail about Tawheed. Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed al-Asma wa Sifat, and Tawheed al-Ibadah. If you break Tawheed al-Ibadah, that is shirk. But even Tawheed al-Asma wa Sifat and Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, if you break, even that is shirk. So what if you realize that the Quran is very clear cut that you cannot marry non-Muslim until they believe. So whether it be Sikh, whether it be Christian, whether it be Hindu, any non-Muslim, only if the person believes in one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and believes that the last and final messenger is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you cannot marry that person. And the next verse goes on further to say that you cannot marry your woman to the non-Muslim men. It's very clear cut. So this verse definitely includes all non-Muslim. You cannot marry any non-Muslim until they believe. Whether they are idolaters, whether they are Christian, whether they are Hindus, whether they are Sikh. If they are non-Muslim, a girl cannot marry a non-Muslim until that boy believes. So if the boy who has proposed you, if he believes in Islam and he agrees there's one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he agrees that the last and final messenger is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and if he accepts Islam, then you can marry him, otherwise you cannot. Hope that answers the question.